That's so dramatic, isn't it? Good. Great morning so far. I'm Sam Tidmarsh. I look after a lot of the programmes here at Wanted Events. And so I get to work with all the great speakers that are on stage today and many of you here in the audience too. This theme is all about measurement, and rather than me trying to explain what it's all going to be about, I'm going to introduce somebody who's much more well-versed in measurement to come and explain what this next hour and a half is going to be talking about. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jeff Eales from Sky Media. So please put your hands together for Jeff.
Thank you very much. Number of things are going to happen today that have never happened in FTV before. One, I'm going to be allowed to moderate a panel, which could last for 20 hours as opposed to 20 minutes. This came out of a conversation between Justin and I last year about wanting to kind of get down to the myths and the truths about what's actually happening in TV measurement at the moment, certainly in the UK. I'm fortunate enough to sit on the Tam Island board, on the Clearcast board, and recently on the Barb board. So I've my year's been really into the meat of what is kind of going on, and we're very, very keen, particularly at Sky and within the UK industry, to make sure things are moving on in this collaboration. So I've been involved in some of the Lantern discussions. We've been involved in a lot of the Bar Panel Plus discussions, and so Justin said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 30 minutes to talk about it." And I said, "That's no good. I need an hour and a half." So he's given me an hour and a half, and we're going to have numbers of people come in, and I'm going to try and glue a bit of it together. But I'm not responsible enough to moderate every single panel. So please invite on for the first panel, talking about myths and truths about what is currently going on in TV audience measurement in the UK. We have Jon, Phil, and Lisa.
Let's dive straight in. OK, so, Jeff, first of all, this panel is not actually about TV measurement, just to remind you.
Right.
And it's actually about cross-media measurement.
Excellent. Thank you, Jon.
So
I'm wrong straight away. Just excellent. I love it.
It probably won't be the first time in the next hour and a half. But anyway, let's get the ball rolling. So first of all, the media industry is obviously very full of people being massively cross. When we're talking about cross-media, cross-platform, cross-device, they all sort of get blurred together. We are here to talk about cross-media measurement, Jeff.
Right.
So when you hear cross-media, what do you understand by that? What are we actually talking about?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So for us, this goes back to the work that we've been doing with the World Federation of Advertisers since 2019, and the WFA North Star and the framework that comes out of that. So when we talk about cross-media measurement, we are talking about comprehensive measurement across all media, of which TV and AV is clearly a really important pillar.
But you include in that, you're trying to also measure radio, streaming audio, out-of-home,
we are.
Print, everything. So cross-media is the whole lot.
Yes, and you'll see we've recently announced a proof of concept with Mail, and there'll be more announcements in that vein to come. It's not simple, but we believe it is doable.
Jeff, do you agree with Phil about what we're trying to measure?
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
But OK. Already I'm being constrained. Can't believe it. So we see it. I see it, right, so in the Sky fraternity, we see it for the moment as being cross-platform measurement, right? So because we know that the linear viewing is moving to streaming, so therefore we have multiple platforms. So wouldn't that be useful to get that bit sorted, right?
But you're only worrying about one bit of what Phil's trying to
just for the
measure.
moment, let's get that bit sorted,
right?
Because that needs to be, we need to pretty much redefine almost everything, right? In order to be able to say to other platforms, we can join in and then measure it together, OK?
OK.
Let's fix our own house first.
So, Lisa, you've heard from these two. Yes. Are you happy that they're trying to measure the stuff you want them to measure?
Yes. Yes. I mean...
You sound slightly uncertain.
Because, as Phil said, it's very complicated, so therefore it's taking a lot of time, and obviously we'd like it today if we could, but we have to be patient. But yes, being able to measure everything is ultimately the utopia, because my media plan includes everything. And for me to optimise my media, reach the right people the right number of times in the right places effectively, I need to see where all my media is landing and where it's
Right.
being consumed. So, absolutely, cross-media measurement is... We're doing it today, but today we're making lots of assumptions and we're knitting bits of data that's siloed together, which is not less than
So
ideal.
that's what I want to ask. Next question. So, given that we've now agreed what we're trying to measure, what do you have already that tells you what you need? What are you modelling? What do you?
Well, I
where is
guess
the
we...
data
Yeah,
less great?
I guess every media agency, every holding group has their version of cross-media measurement, as I say, which knits things together, that tries to give us, you know, the reach and frequency across an entire plan. But there's lots of assumptions made in those proprietary models that the agencies currently use. And that's what is holding us back, that, you know, we have to work with the truth that we have, you know, and ultimately, you know, the proof comes, or the test comes, when you run your econometric modelling, and hopefully, wave on wave, you're improving the ROI on your campaigns. But you have to make the assumptions, then measure the results, and the result is only ever as good as the assumptions that you've made.
And from what you've seen so far, do you think that what Phil and Origin are doing is going to be a step forwards for you? It's going to
Absolutely.
solve...
Yeah,
Cool, okay.
absolutely.
So Phil, quickly, and I appreciate we've run entire conferences on this very topic, but very briefly, where have you got to? When do you actually launch the full solution?
It's a very good question. So we are currently in beta trials with 35 advertisers, many of whom have been backing the programme since 2019. Within that, we're surfacing linear TV data from our own 2,500 household Kantar panel, and we're doing that on a second-by-second basis. So we're surfacing all measured impressions, MRC 2-second, and completion by quartile all the way to fully complete. We are surfacing that alongside YouTube data and metadata as well. We are working on integrations with other platforms. TikTok, Amazon have been long-term supporters, so they'll be coming along shortly. And our view is that we will move from that beta trial, subject to success, out into pilots and towards general availability in the middle of next year.
So it's coming fast. I mean, it's been a lot of work.
It's coming fast.
We're getting there.
You know, we've got line of sight to about 70% of the display media market by spend, and there are clearly some big gaps beyond that we need to fill. But it's coming on. It's coming on quickly, and we've also begun working much more closely with our American counterparts. So we expect to see that roadmap accelerate and converge as well, which we hope is going to give us a really good blueprint for global expansion.
Cool. So, Jeff, Phil is solving Lisa's problems, but he's not doing very much to solve your problems.
Well, that's a little...
It is. It's a question.
Let's say a year ago that might have been true.
So he is now solving your problems.
No, not yet. No, he's not. Not yet. Not yet. But I think time is a great healer, right? We're talking more. Barb is talking to Phil and ISBA about, if you like, the high-level issues about transparency and about the actual measure. I tend to be talking to Phil about the actual detail, right, down in the deep, dark woods of systems and how we're going to actually measure everything together. And I think we would say that we're making some progress. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we're absolutely not there yet, but the doors are not closed, and we are definitely talking about what.
Do you think you'll be there by summer 2025 when Phil is launching?
I think we'll have a path. I mean, you know, there are complexities here. You know, there are inherent heterogeneity issues between media types. Where we're both aligned is on the need to drive for accountability in the data, and where there are differences to make sure that people are aware that those differences exist, and some explanation of why they do.
So let's talk about some of those methodological complexities. So, Lisa, from a big picture point of view as a marketeer, when you look at threading it all together, what's the hard bit? You know, what's the bit when your agencies come in with their assumptions and their models, when you and your team are going, that's a bit squiffy?
I think the hard bit is knowing when, I mean, I guess that's quite a big question, because what we're trying to do is create the most effective media plan, which probably prioritises the channels that we believe have the most impact. Right. And AV will always have the most impact. But obviously, we need to make sure we eliminate the waste in that plan and make sure we're getting to the right audiences. And that's becoming an increasingly complicated blend of, obviously linear TV, CTV, now the ad-subsidised, SVOD platforms, plus then YouTube, plus then you've got social platforms. It's really hard to know where you're reaching unique audiences, where you've got overlapping audiences, and therefore when, that the age-old problem of, what's my reach, what's my frequency, we don't really know that. We know that within a platform, but we don't know that across platforms, and we don't know what's the perfect combination. So every campaign is just, constant improvement on the last campaign. It's iterative adjustments, and we work our way through it. But it's a very inexact science, if I'm really honest, because we're always blind to really what our audience is consuming. We know within each platform what's going on. We know within Barb what's going on, but we can't knit the whole lot together. So we have to make assumptions.
And just briefly, the brilliant Kate Waters was here yesterday talking about the role and value of experiments.
Yes.
Do they play a role for you in thinking about what's really working?
Absolutely, yes. So we've done sort of experiments in terms of controlled tests, which is probably especially important if you've got slightly more niche audiences where reaching those audiences is more of a challenge. We've also done experiments with digital platforms, specifically to understand their unique value, especially if in the econometric model our hunch is we're not measuring it correctly. It's not seeing the impact and the effect accurately. So we're constantly experimenting to improve the insight and therefore improve performance.
Got you. OK, so Jeff, when you think about what Origin are trying to do, which are the bits which you think are genuinely methodologically complex? What's the tough bit about the task they've written?
Definition of one, right? The definition of a single view. That's what we're working. That's what we work on with AdSmart. So when we got the 4 million set-top box panel that we collect every day, we use 1 million of that to run the currency. Now the difference between the 4 million and the million is scaled and it's capped, because we know we have to have capping, because we know that the set-top box might be on, the TV might be off. Okay, we deal with co-viewing, who's in the room, a slightly different way. But just for the moment, let's just make sure, is the device on, right? Is the screen active? And how long was the ad played for? Okay, so the AdSmart algorithm is 100% viewed, 100% in view. So it would be nice if we could adopt standards like those and know that each broadcaster is prepared, or each data supplier is prepared to sign up to providing data on a high quality basis through a third party if required, okay, or audited at source. And it doesn't have to be audited for every view, once every 6 months. So, would be fine, or even once every year. That's kind of where we would come from. That's when you're first building something that absolutely is going to be used as a currency, or dare I say, to be used within any measurement environment, you need to know it's rigorous.
Although Origin argue they're not going to be a currency.
You took the words out of my mouth. But nonetheless, while our use cases from the WFA North Star are planning, reporting and optimisation, we are very much committed to those principles of accountability and audit. As I say, there are likely to be heterogeneity issues because not all media are served up in the same way. But I think getting to a base standard where we can find an alignment and agree is something we're committed to do. And if we can do that globally in some cases, we will.
Because some of this feels very...
Heterogeneity.
Different stuff.
First word.
I've used it twice.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've misunderstood
my word of the
both
day.
times.
I want to bet. Thanks.
So, Lisa, just quickly, when you're thinking about media value, do you attribute much value to a 2-second video exposure? Or do you think that it takes 30 seconds for the full value of the message to be really understood by the viewer?
I think you have to live in the reality of what consumers are doing. So it's no use saying, you know, I wish they looked at my Instagram ads for a little bit longer, because that's not the reality. So I think, you know, certainly within our media plan, you know, there is longer form, there's shorter form, and actually there's some, you know, the campaign works because it all works together. You know, there are places where you have more time, it's a longer narrative, it's more of an emotional moment with our brand. But then, you know, we are now very versed at optimising ultra short form formats. Understanding exactly what view-through rates are really helpful. And there was a time when I think advertisers were quite naive to how social media was being consumed. You know, we need to know the facts so we can optimise our creative to lean into the lived experience of our advertising. It's no use pretending that people are attentive and they watch our ads from beginning to end. They don't. So we have to play into the reality of how content's consumed.
It seems to me that Lisa's just done a very good job of explaining why defining a view is actually quite complicated.
It is, and again, you know, we shouldn't make assumptions about where we are today because of the planning systems that are currently being used in often a non-transparent way, but also the fact that we're not actually measuring completed views within our core reporting system today. So we don't know the answer about how important is a completed view, and we need to do more analytics to do that.
So if you're not measuring completed view, what are you measuring?
Well, Barb measures the minute in which an ad starts.
Yes, correct.
Right.
Correct.
You know, it's the clock minute in which the ad starts.
Right.
Gets a completed view attributed. So, you know, with the data that we're now surfacing on a second-by-second basis, we're able to see what those attrition rates look like through individual ads. And we think that will be a much better source of data for advertisers to start to ascribe value on in the future. You know, we've got some advertisers who definitely want to have the guardrails of standards to be able to do as much apples with apples as they can. I didn't want to say apples with apples, but I have. But we have other advertisers who have very sophisticated analytics functions, so saying, give us the fire hose, the more granular the data, as long as it's trustworthy and accountable, let us make the judgments about what's working on the basis of our own MMM, econometrics, or whatever else it is they're doing with it.
I'm desperately
I think we would broadly support that, right? Because if you take it at its if you take what we've had for the last 35 years, right, when Barb reports a 10-second and a 30-second, it's the sales houses that judge, or whether the 10 seconds in peak and the 30 seconds is an off-peak. The sales houses decide on the value of that, right? For years and years and years, a 10-second in the UK has been valued at half the price of a 30, right? Not a third. Now, that's a sales house choice to do that, and it's an agency choice to agree that that's what the metric is. So why can't we, right? Why, in that instance, someone decide what a 2-second is against a full view, provided the data is correct, provided it is being provided correctly from source for every view all the time? That could be a way that we could get through. So we're not having the argument. So in a data term, I don't particularly want the argument about whether it's more valuable or not. That's a pricing issue, and we absolutely don't talk about that in Barb, because that's not what Barb's there for. It's there for consistency, accuracy, and applying a gold standard.
So I'm hoping we don't go down the fruit salad discussion, which hasn't come up occasionally.
No,
but one of the other fundamental challenges when we're thinking about cross-media measurement, I guess, is translating somehow between people, households, and devices. So in TV, we've tended to think about the people sitting in front of the glass watching. And in many other media, that's not what we're measuring. We're measuring views on a device, or to an individual account, or to a location in the case of out of home. Can we really come up with a consistent way of measuring all of this stuff?
Honest answer is I doubt if it's ever going to be perfect.
Right.
But there will be conventions that we'll have to agree. I mean, just as we've agreed the treaties on which we currently even trade money.
Right.
But I do think that what we have tried to build with the Origin architecture is something that combines the best of people-centred measurement through panels, in which co-viewing is a factor, with the ability to ingest first-party data in a privacy-safe way. And that's been done through the translation of the panel data into virtual ID models, which are then applied to the impressions. Now, in a world of the future where we could solve for a truly privacy-safe, deterministic ID, things could get even more interesting, I think, for advertisers and agencies and those who are in the business. I think we're a little way off solving for that, but that's certainly on the origin horizon.
Jeff, is this an issue that Sky's had to grapple with as well? I mean, you historically were a satellite service provider, which also had channels on other platforms. But increasingly, you've obviously moved into the streaming world, and you have accounts set up, and you have various targeting options, therefore. How do you reconcile some of those issues?
Well, when we put AdSmart live, we were in, should we say, a fairly in an area where we were quite used to, right? So we knew how to put an ad in front of insert it into a linear stream. So that kind of worked. Then we had to work out how we were going to measure it. So we measured that using return path data. But a lot of the boxes, in order to give us scale, a lot of the boxes we used didn't have a return path on them then. Pretty much all of them do now. So of course we're in transition to make it so that within probably 2 or 3 years' time, pretty much every single Sky device will have a return path data on it. But the next level for us would be clearly on the VOD and also streaming. We'd like to see things coming together as a single campaign. I mean, there is a complete vested interest here from if you like, all broadcasters selling campaigns and all buyers buying campaigns, which is 15, 20 years ago there was 2,500 brands pretty much a month, and that was about 2,500 campaigns with 2 or 3 pieces of copy attached to those campaigns. It's now 7,000 to 8,000 a month, right? And we're not making that much. We're not making that much. It's just the fragmentation means that operational load is taken on by the broadcasters and the agencies, and we've not. I promise you, we've not got that many more people, right? And it's hard. And actually, digital is more difficult to operate, oddly, than linear is. Only because linear is, if you like, so established, and online isn't. So what we're trying to do is to put those together, so that you can buy, with a single budget, you can buy audience across those platforms, and we report back to you similarly, right, so that you can create a definition of one across the board. That's what we're trying to do. And actually, last year, this year, one campaign addressable has been incredibly successful because we've made it simple. So as James Rook was saying, let's try, and everybody was saying yesterday, let's try and make it simple. One of the ways, if not the only way you can make it simple, is let's get back to selling one, right? And measuring it the same so we can have a single budget with a single outcome with a single audience.
You presumably have quite sophisticated models which describe the target audiences you're trying to reach. And I'm guessing it's more than just age, gender. You've got lots of other characteristics mapped onto those individuals.
Yes.
So you're looking for quite sophisticated solutions that allow you to target those specific attributes?
I think it depends on what the creative is, and therefore what the objective is of that line in the media plan. Because obviously, for most campaigns, I'm operating with quite broad audiences. But I also have campaigns that are designed to drive long-term brand, brand equity, and then I also have to find in-market audiences who are going to buy the next iPhone. And so, therefore, the data that we get, plays very much into what those channels could then deliver. Some of the digital platforms are incredibly sophisticated in terms of being able to identify in-market in-market audiences, like, for example, Google and YouTube, whereas obviously our objective in terms of BVOD and TV is to really predominantly drive the brand. So, the more data we can have, the more choices that we have available to us. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all the money gets funneled into, demand generation, performance media, not at all. Or at the other end of it, brand campaigns. But, visibility is everything in terms of being able to make smarter choices.
But I'm guessing all it means is that you're looking for quite a lot of additional data sets to layer on top of traditional audience measurement solutions. So particularly when you're getting into more granular targeting, you can deliver against the targets. OK, after Jeff's lengthy intro, we are unfortunately running...
Lengthy? It was under 3 minutes.
It was.
Yeah. Okay.
In a 25 minute...
Look, tell you what. We can carry on for a little bit longer.
Can we?
Yeah, I think so.
OK.
Have we got... I mean...
I love it. You've got the last word.
We can't carry on for longer.
We have one more question. Let's do one last question.
Absolutely.
I think an important one.
Go for it.
Yes.
So we've talked a bit about the landscape. We've touched upon some of the methodological challenges. I guess the big question, which I think, Jeff, is something that matters a lot to you in particular, is who is going to oversee cross-media measurement solutions in the future? Obviously, we have JICs who tend to specialise in individual media. Do we need some new body to guarantee transparency, provide trust, build confidence in these solutions? What's the kind of origin plan for governance and oversight?
Sure. An origin may not be the end state, but we've conceived origin as a joint industry body based on joint industry currency principles, but not intending to supplant any of the joint industry currencies that sit within their individual media. So we have a coalition of some 50 supporters currently, stakeholders, who've been funding the programme, who are cross-industry, so they are both buy and sell side, and the agency groups as well. A key principle that we've brought into this from the WFA framework is that if advertisers want to have the change that they seek, they are going to have to lean into this and take an active financial stake and leadership within this as well, more so than they might have done in the past, which is why ISBA has been involved up to now, and why we conceive of a future where advertisers will take a large, not the majority, but 40% stake in any venture. We know that there are other markets where the joint industry currencies have come together and are cooperating, like the Netherlands, for example.
Super JICs.
Super JICs. Now, that may be a model that emerges. We certainly think that there needs to be much more collaboration there. Is
the answer then to be determined?
I think it's to be determined. We think Origin is an elegant solution for now, but it does require a degree of trust and collaboration across the industry, which has not always been evident in the last 5 years, as we'd all know.
Jeff, what would you like to see overseeing cross-media measurement solutions in the UK marketplace?
I think I'm with Phil. I'm not quite sure I know yet.
Too early to say.
I think it is. I think there's too much to fix in our own. Certainly in TV's house, we've just got to catch up, right? And I think we're doing Karaka really well.
Okay. Lisa, does it matter to you? Do you want to see something overseeing these solutions to give you and your marketing colleagues at Vodafone and elsewhere in the industry confidence that what you're using to support your planning is really robust?
I think, yes, it definitely matters. It definitely matters because I think media plans are getting, they are already complicated. They're getting more complicated. We need to put our money where the most effective advertising will deliver. And I think at the moment it's hard because I think certain players within the AV space are losing out in the traditional model, and they don't fit into the traditional way of buying and evaluating digital media. So I think it's really important that we find a solution that measures everything in the same way.
But the watchwords are trustworthy and accountable.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Absolutely right.
Jeff, Lisa, Phil, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.